I'm Edwin Samuelson, and welcome to a special mini review for the CineFiles. Today we're going to be discussing The Thing. No, not John Carpenter's version. We're going to be talking about the sequel, or the reimagining, or the relaunch. I don't know what the hell.
A prequel. Prequel.
Is that what we're calling it?
Prequel.
Prequel?
I think it is a prequel. Yeah, it's definitely a prequel.
It's a prequel.
There's no
prequel
fuzziness to that. It's a prequel.
You know what? Fuck it. We're going to talk about the original Thing as well, because there's no way you can talk about the sequel to The Thing, or the prequel to The Thing without talking about the original. We have to discuss it. John Carpenter's The Thing came out, didn't do much business at all. It was lambasted by the critics, saying that he overused special effects, and it just went straight to video. However, something amazing happened. The film became a huge cult favorite on video. I mean, it's probably as influential and as loved as Dawn of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Its legacy has grown over the years, and
it was also hurt by the release of E.T.
Yes, it was.
Because nobody wanted to see evil aliens anymore.
Yeah, and it really destroyed John Carpenter's career.
I think it was released 1 week. It was 1 week before E.T.
Oh, no, it was a few weeks after E.T. E.T. It was released by Universal. It was a budget of $15 million, which, as you can imagine, is a very big budget for John Carpenter, coming off Escape from New York, which was about $6 million. This was the film that was meant to really start his Hollywood career. Well, it didn't do too well for him. In fact, it actually got him fired from his next project, which was Firestarter. He was supposed to direct Firestarter, and Universal saw the grosses and fired him immediately. Wow. And then he had problems getting another film, and it took him a little while, and that's when he made Christine. But The Thing has become loved by fans over the years. It led to a video game sequel, where John Carpenter makes a little appearance in the movie, in the game.
As the Doctor.
As the Doctor. And there was talk for many years of making a prequel, because in the original film they talked about what happened before.
Well, there was actually a very serious attempt to do a sequel for the Sci-Fi Channel.
For TV.
I think Dermot was behind it.
Dermot was brought on. It was supposed to be a mini-series. It was going to follow what happened afterwards. They were going to get, I don't know how they were going to do it. I think maybe they were going to bring Kurt Russell in, or someone coming.
Kurt Russell was, the idea was that he was infected. And in like the first half of it, where the scientists or the people that came to rescue him turns out he was affected, and the second half of it, I think it would have been like a mini-series, would be on Earth. Once that organism, back at like home.
Yeah, and in fact, I think Kurt Russell, that was fascinating, is they thought of a way to make it work.
Isn't the Antarctic.
John Carpenter came up with a very brilliant idea on how to make the film work, even though it was all these years later. Kurt Russell, of course, is a lot older, because it's supposed to take place immediately afterwards. He was going to make it where Keith David and Kurt Russell had severe frostbite on their face, so they'd be wearing a lot of makeup. But that was his idea. They would be in quarantine. And
so I just remember that. Once again, I hate to go back to this, but the Dark Horse is a comic book company, and they bought up a lot of film licenses in the 90s to make sequels to some of the good genre films. As a matter of fact, they got a Star Wars license. Anyway, they put out a sequel to The Thing, comic book-wise, and I thought it was brilliant. It was 4 issues long, and it was absolutely brilliant. It had McCready and
Keith David.
Keith David's character.
Childs,
Childs,
that's right.
Had them wandering, just walking. After the camp burned down, they started walking, and all of a sudden a Russian submarine pokes its way up through the ice. So they're actually rescued on the sub, and they're brought back to civilization. And they're still, both Childs and McCready are still unsure who's going to test. The Russian sub goes to Tierra del Fuego at the southernmost tip of South America, and they actually run into, I think they run into some trouble from some guerrillas that are trying to run a revolution or whatever, and then it winds up that Childs is the one that's infected, and he escapes. He kills some guards. What would you say? Assimilates them, right. And then since he's in the jungle, that's the big plot line for the sequel. Is that what with this? You had the alien being frozen and being under control. No matter what happens, the alien is going to be frozen in a block of ice. What happens when you put him in a jungle atmosphere? Because of this rescue. And it was great. It was a great little story, and I thought this would be a nice, neat little sequel to The Thing from Another World. But we didn't get that.
Well, the one we did get was, I had high hopes for it, because the script was written by Ronald D. Moore, who wrote Battlestar Galactica. And he's a terrific writer, and he's very knowledgeable and respectful of the genre, so I had high hopes for the film. However, it was bumped from Universal's release date a couple times, which is never a good sign for a film. It came out, and I saw it first day opening show. I was very excited by the film. I said, maybe it's still going to be good, because John Carpenter's The Thing is one of my favorite films of all time. I think it's perhaps the most claustrophobic and paranoid, best paranoia film ever made. In terms
Best
of
monster movie ever made.
I would agree with you on that completely. This film, of course, takes place just shortly before the original, and there's one problem with the film is that what's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
It's already set up from the original.
Preordained.
It's preordained. There is one or two surprises in the film, but it's basically a by-the-numbers remake of the original.
Yeah.
Without the paranoia.
It's not even a good. Everything that was great about John Carpenter's The Thing is just not in this film, and. Well, we saw it together, and you were sitting next to me. Like, when something would happen, I'd be like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I was pretty vocal in the theater. It was, the thing in John Carpenter's The Thing was, whatever it was thinking. And it was trying to survive, and it was smart, and it was trying to figure out ways to outsmart everyone else and still make it.
Survival was paramount.
The creature in the prequel was just this mindless killing monster. And for no rhyme or reason, just decided to pop out of people and start killing people.
And I agree with Eric 100% on that. In the first film, you're working with a creature with intelligence. There's a slyness to it, a sneakiness to it. It's also left up to you to decide at the end if you're dealing with a creature that's evil or just all about survival. You don't get that in this film, in the prequel. This character is, like you said, a killing machine. It's an evil creature. Yet, when you're inside the spaceship at the end, which I thought was neat, there were some elements of the film that I thought were kind of neat, but you go into that spaceship and you see, okay, there's a viable intelligence here. Now, of course, they could have written that maybe if the filmmaker or the screenwriter was if Ron Moore was a little bit more on the ball.
He was rewritten, to be fair.
Maybe that this spaceship, this is how you could have made it work. Maybe this spaceship wasn't the Thing's spaceship. Maybe it was basically a prison transport. And this creature was being escorted to another planet, and it had this emergency crash. So this creature was a legitimate killing machine, and then the warders were off somewhere, they died or whatever. That's how you could have made it work, but you're not. So you're basically trying to say, yes, this mindless killing monster that also utilizes this bizarre, ultra-sophisticated technology, and it just didn't make any sense.
Well,
I was going to say that I would have just jettisoned the whole spaceship thing, because at this point we've got so many science fiction alien invasion films where it all ends up, every single movie, with the heroes in the spaceship. Cowboys versus aliens. This film, it's just becoming a cliche at this point. Where it could have surprised you, this is what I think they should have done with The Thing. I think what they should have done, like halfway through the film, some characters split off. Remember, they kept talking about going to that other base? I think they should have let them go to that other base. And then whatever transpires in the Norwegian base happens just as it did, as it was described in John Carpenter's The Thing, but then you have this other side story, which is where it becomes a surprise and unpredictable, where you don't know where it's going. And it'd be kind of cool, like something happens in this other base where they go to like rescue MacReady and Childs at the end of John Carpenter's The Thing or something like that. And then there could be like the surprise where it turns out that either one of those guys is actually the Thing now, or the Thing is actually coming to rescue them.
That's why you should have written the script. Well, here's my problem with the movie. Is that the original, as we said, is a remake. It's basically a remake of the original film. It really is. Now, my problem is the original film, the key to that film, the whole thing that held everything together was the paranoia. You didn't know who the Thing was. Everyone was distrustful of each other.
I was going to say what held it together was the actors.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that they sold it. They were all paranoid of each other, and I believe that paranoia.
And you couldn't tell the difference between a lot of characters.
Exactly.
In this
you
one.
could tell before the Thing even showed up that all these characters really were annoyed and fed up with one another. They were all just fed up.
Well, that's my problem. Is like, like the paranoia. There's a whole segment in the original thing where they're all together and they're all like, who is it? Who is this? And they're literally, you think they're about to kill. Well, let me finish. They're about to kill each other. There's parts where they're about to literally go at it and kill each other.
Well, they do. They do kill each other.
They do, but you never feel that they're ever. You never feel that. You never
because
feel.
There's no investment in the characters.
Well, that's the problem. Is that you never. They know that there's a creature out there, but you never ever suspect any of those characters are the Thing at any time. It's like you never have like, who could this person be the character?
Because
Could
once
this
again,
person be
it
it?
goes back to the idea that the thing is a sly, intelligent creature that is looking to survive. He is not the alien killing machine that's going to just go rampant
No,
through this base.
I blame some of that on the director in the script, because there's some scenes they could have played with your perception of who is the thing and who is not.
Well, to be honest, the director, I thought
he did a very good job in some of the scenes.
I think the cinematography and some of the mood was very well done. It seems like though this is a film that was filled with a lot before they released it, and apparently it was. They kept reshooting stuff and they kept rewriting the script and what have you. And
that's what happens when you have too many cooks in the kitchen
right.
when it comes to a screenplay.
And unfortunately, what you have is this bare bones idea now, which is basically just rehashing what happened in the original, even though it's supposed to be the prequel. And the cleverest thing that goes on in the film is just showing you the moments that are considered iconic in the original one. I kind of liked it, and I was kind of annoyed by it, because I was like, okay, we got to scratch this off the list. Axe in the wall, check. We explained that. Okay, we got to explain the two-headed creature. Okay, we got that. Take that off the list. What else? What's left? What's
Lars.
left? You know, it got to the point where it's like, oh, come on. You know,
But see, I kind of like that. That was my favorite part. It
took me out of the film. It's like your complaint about the James Bond films that do the homage, you know, all the homages to like previous Bond films, like, you know, like say Halle Berry coming out of the water wearing
that's not a complaint. I don't mind that.
I thought you said in the James Bond show, you says, yeah, that's one too many homages. They got to stop with that.
There was two.
Oh, it's our 20th or 40th anniversary. Look at this, fans.
Yeah, as a screen, I think the producers make the screenwriter do that, and gives me a headache. I don't like referencing like older stuff. Oh, it's for the cute moments, and you want to hang yourself.
Too many. There was too many. But
I was just feeling like it would just take me out of the film after a while, and I felt like, you know, there's a point where it'd be nice not to have everything like spat out for you. Why can't some things be left ambiguous?
Well, they had to keep it from the original, because I mean there was the scene with the axe. I mean they had to have that, but I mean I think he did a good job of not making it, you know, overly lingering the camera on those scenes. I thought it was done kind of very as well as it could be, because you had to do it.
And the CGI.
That's the problem. That's my problem. The CGI thing. This was so funny. 1982, almost 30 years ago.
Right.
30 years ago, that makeup is still
Much
far
better.
superior to anything that can be created with a fucking computer. Yeah. I'm sorry. Rob Bottin was an artist, a genius. Unfortunately, he had a nervous breakdown and never really, you know, he did some other films, but those are the greatest effects in history of film.
Probably the best makeup-related effects. This goes beyond anything either Stan Winston or KBN Effects or anybody has ever done.
Dick Smith, even higher than Dick Smith.
This is probably, even Dick Smith, this is probably the best showcase for, best argument for practical effects is in this film.
And the best you can do is CGI on this.
But that's why I love this movie, is because you can see.
You love this movie?
No, I'm saying no. That's what I love about this movie is that you can see with
John
the
Carpenter's
CGI.
The Thing.
I'm sorry. I love looking at the new one, because you can see the effects with state-of-the-art computer-generated effects cannot hold a candle to what was created with someone's hands. It's just like, you know how people like go like, oh, if we had this technology back then, the film could have been better. You always hear that from directors. Oh, if I had this technology back then, this effect would have come off better. You'll never hear that from John Carpenter on The Thing, because those effects are fucking
Actually, it
perfect.
was disproven with what George Lucas said all the time about the Star Wars films,
Perfect,
and he went back and fiddled with them with the modern technology, and no, they weren't as good.
No.
They weren't better.
No.
Another thing, and like I said, I think the actors are really the underappreciated strength of the first film.
Yes.
And you really, you know, these are actors
Wilford
that you've
Brimley,
seen before.
D.W. Moffat.
Who was Gary? Was that D.W. Moffat?
That was D.W.
Gary,
Moffat, who was fantastic in it, because you got the on one hand, he was unsympathetic because he was like that sort of
He was a
douchebag
prick.
authoritarian figure.
Yeah, he was like
but
a
at the same
fucking-
time, you did kind of sympathize with him because you saw that how it was getting out of his control and he didn't know how to deal with it.
And he was the guy
And he
that
kinda
was
just
supposed
gave
to
in.
maintain the order.
Right.
And I like that he was kind of cowardly, but yet he had to pretend to be this tough guy. And let's not forget, too, a great performance by Richard Masur.
I didn't see him as cowardly. I saw him as a person that was out of his element and suddenly realized that and came across as kind of helpless in that situation.
Yeah, he couldn't.
I didn't see him as cowardly at all.
He couldn't maintain the control that he wanted to.
There's not one bad performance in the original film. That is what.
The actor that I love, the actor that plays the Doctor, who was also from Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane.
I forgot his name. He was in St. Elsewhere.
His name is Richard Dysart.
Richard Dysart.
He's also
Right.
in LA Law.
What's his name? Richard Mazur, who was the president of the Screen Actors Guild for a while.
He's terrific.
Well,
he was the dog
was he-
handler.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's great.
But again, they ripped
The redheaded guy that had the heart attack.
Yeah, no, that wasn't him. That was Charles Hayde who had the heart attack.
No.
The redheaded guy had the heart attack.
The fat guy, Charles Hayde.
That's not Charles Hayde. Charles Hayde was in
oh God,
Hill Street Blues.
The other guy. I know Charles Hallahan. Charles Hallahan. That's it. Charles Hallahan.
Yeah, no,
he was on Hunter. Richard Dysart actually has a nose ring in the movie.
I was going to say that I want to get back to the
Blu-ray.
Richard Mazur character because this is significant.
The old guy has a nose ring?
Yes, he does.
The Richard Mazur character is a fully fleshed out character, a guy who was the dog keeper, right?
Yes.
In the prequel, you have a character that is dispatched in the exact same way Richard Mazur is dispatched in John Carpenter's The Thing, but you're like, who the fuck was that character? Which is you totally remember Richard Mazur character, which shows you like what is the night and day between John Carpenter. You know what I'm talking about. Richard Mazur is killed the exact same way a certain character is killed.
The bullet through the head.
Bullet through the head.
It's a tip of the hat to the original. Well, now
but at some point,
but in the prequel, you don't. That leaves no impression whatsoever. Whereas in John Carpenter's Thing, you totally feel that.
Well, I felt upset when his dogs got killed, and he was upset.
Yeah.
He did a really good job at that. He's terrific. Now, let me tell you what. Now, what I do like, I got to give some praise to the remake. There is some things I do like. I like the tone. I think it looks really nice. I think the sound design is very good. I think the direction is very good. I like the actors.
You can't really see tone. I'm looking at that. You can't.
The
you
tone,
mean
the
color
feel.
tones?
No, the feel of the film, the tone, the vibe. It felt like it could be in the same universe as the original thing. My problem, though, is the script. And
there's some points in the film, though. Do you wonder if it was the fault of the screenplay, or do you think it was the fault of the director? There's two scenes in particular that stand out in my mind.
It's a combination. There's a scene.
First of all, there's this one scene
where the helicopter.
That's one of the most egregious things in the film. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck, if this monster's all about survival, why does he have a shit fit up in the thing when he's going to be getting off scot-free in the helicopter?
You know why? Because they don't want him to get scot-free. They want him to be, because if he went back, there would be no more movie.
Well, exactly.
But it goes counter to the way the alien thought in the first place.
That's a bad scripting. That's not the director's fault.
Yeah. Well, the other thing
you can make an argument that the Joel Edgerton character, who's sort of the MacReady of the prequel, remember she's trying to flag them down to come back, and you could make the argument that the Thing realized that they're going to be taken back to that base, so he had to do something to prevent that from happening.
That's a reach.
But it is a reach because it's not really fleshed out enough in that scene for you to get that connection.
I gotta tell you, the Joel Edgerton, he might be a fine actor in some things like Animal Kingdom and the MMA film that he did, but he sucks in this. He's barely given anything to do.
Is he the lead?
He's like the love interest.
No. He was the MacReady of this film.
The Australian guy that was with and shows up at the end. Anyway, the guy, he was worthless in this film. And another thing that just really got on my nerves is the snowcat at the beginning falls down into the crevice. And they fell a good 30 feet, but yet the next time you see them, they got all sitting around in the office, I think drinking hot chocolate.
How they get the snowcat?
How the fuck did they get that?
Well,
out?
I mean, it was for a film that was so desperate. This is why I was annoyed. This is another reason why I was annoyed with all those the stuff for the fans. Okay, they're willing to put all this stuff in there about why the axe is in the wall and what happened to it, but it's like.
Why couldn't they put that care into other parts?
Right, and it's supposed to 1981, right, or something like that.
We had the Men at Work song. Come on, that's
exactly. But I didn't realize that you had professors looking like hipsters back in 1981. like a fellow archaeologist, whatever. I was like, oh, dude.
I did like the guy who played the guy. I'm sorry. I like the guy who hired the.
I didn't mind him, but I was so annoyed by his look. I was like, that's
the guy that hired.
The guy that was her friend. The only other American.
The little wimpy guy, yeah.
Right, and I was like, I didn't.
I'm talking about the rich guy who brought them to the.
Yeah, but you mean the blonde doctor? He was one of the worst parts.
I like him as an actor. I like
Thomas
him.
Vinter.
I like him. I just don't think
he was good in the International.
I think he's a good actor. I just think he's wasted in this.
But
he's been in a few Dogma films.
He was a mustache.
Yeah, that's the thing I didn't like about him too. They went so cliche.
That's what I mean.
Character.
I like him as an actor. I think he was good. I just don't think that character.
Yeah, it wasn't. There was no care in trying to do anything unique. or original in terms of the presentation of the
Nobody was a villain in the
story.
original. Nobody was a villain. The only thing
Actually, everyone was a villain. That was the problem, is that everyone was paranoid of each other. That's why it worked.
I mean, what they're trying, I could see, in a weird kind of way, I could see that maybe
We got to keep the
they were
sample.
trying to go back to the original, The Thing from Another World, which is what John Carpenter's was a remake of, the Howard Hawks film. Where there was like the scientist character that wanted to keep the thing alive, but they didn't make him the bad guy, just made him misguided, and maybe if they did something with this character where they made him less of a prick and they try to make some sort of argument for his point of view as to why they should try to protect and keep this alive, it might have made for a more interesting dynamic.
But that was the problem with everybody. Everybody was
I totally agree.
underdeveloped. Everybody, you didn't give a shit about anybody. In the original, I didn't want to see Windows get killed. Even
Right.
though Windows was a little bit annoying, but I didn't want to see him get killed. I really cared about Knowles and his roller
that's
skates.
another thing too I want to tell you. In the original, when the Thing would make its appearance, you would go, "What the fuck?" It would come out. It would shock you.
No, it's
This
really
one, I
interesting.
never felt that impact.
I read the novelization of The Thing when I was a kid because I was obsessed with the film, and then so I read the novelization.
Who goes there? That's what it
No,
is.
no. Who Goes There was a
You
short
mean the,
story.
you mean
They
the,
did
there was a
novelization of the
novelization
movie.
of John Carpenter's The
okay.
Thing that had like photographs in the movie in it, all that stuff.
It's based on the actual screenplay.
It was
wasn't
based
a
on the
Marvel
actual
Super
screenplay.
Special, right?
No. This wasn't no. This is based on the actual screenplay, and it's interesting because there are things in there that surprised me after having seen the film that wasn't a film. Like what happens. Windows was the guy with the roller skates. Was it
No,
Windows?
that was Knowles.
That was Knowles was with the roller skates.
Windows has the afro with the mustache.
He was the
there.
guy in the
He was
in the
he's
Warriors.
radio
Right, okay.
operator.
He's the guy in the Warriors.
Well, Knowles, with the guy with the roller skates, in the movie, he just goes down that dark corridor and you never see him again.
Right.
Right? In apparently in the screenplay, because the novelizations were always based on the screenplays, original shooting scripts. And so those writers had no idea what would be kept in the actual finished film or not. These books were meant to come out at the same time as the movie. Apparently, in the original screenplay, they had this whole thing where Knowles is being chased by the Thing, where he winds up being confronting it and being chased, and he's on his roller skates. And apparently, it ends with him stuck in the bathroom, in a bathroom stall, as this thing's getting closer and closer and closer. And somewhere in the novel, in the script, I guess, each character was equipped with cyanide tablets in case they couldn't get out of the situation. And he tries to take his, but he loses it. And so he winds up dying this like really painful death. or
And
whatever.
don't forget the original ending, which Mike and I got to hear from John Carpenter himself. Remember when we met John Carpenter years before we knew each other? John Carpenter said the original ending of the movie, McCready and Childs are picked up by a plane and they're given this test, and they both find out they're not the Thing. But that was cut. It was filmed but not used. In fact, it's not even on the DVD. I don't know why, but they do talk about it.
Yeah, all you have is the interview, the exit interview with McCready.
Yeah,
Liz Winstead, once again, I like her as an actress, but not that great in here.
it's not her. I don't really blame her. It's not a very well.
Yeah. Like,
And they make it too convenient for her to be the final one. It's like the way she gets out of situations are a little too convenient.
and it's still exactly
Compared to
way
the other
too
characters,
convenient.
yeah.
And once again, you got that cliche ending of like, let's curse and throw something explosive at the aliens.
I do like the one thing in the ending. I do like the very ending, which is a recreation of the original opening of the original Thing, with the dog and the music.
Well, we already said that.
I knew that, but I like that.
Don't you think
That was my
on
favorite.
that, don't you
Not.
think though they left it a little bit too open-ended with Edgerton burning, because once she figured out that he was not of this world with the earring, wouldn't it have reacted somehow in self-defense instead of going no? And even when she lights him on fire with the torch,
I was talking
he
to
didn't
someone
change at all.
who liked the film better than I did, who said that no, it's left ambiguous whether or not he
That
was
was
a
me.
Thing or not. Was that you?
That was me.
And
I didn't hear the alien scream that he claims.
I heard
saw
this,
with a
I
friend.
heard the alien
and if
scream.
it
I
was
just
meant
thought
to be that ambiguous, it needed to be clearer.
I just thought it was cheap.
I gotta rewatch
It was
it
just
just to see
really.
that.
It was just really cheap.
Because I would have loved that idea if she might have fucked up and killed
I talked to my friend about it. Even he said he didn't hear the alien scream. I don't know. Maybe the version you saw. I don't know. Maybe they changed it
I
because
heard the alien.
That would have been a great ending.
It's not really a scream. It's like a roar.
It's like, I didn't hear it. I just heard
Yeah.
him. But I
But see, he doesn't change. So don't do that ambiguous shit, because that was pretty clever that she noticed the earring. That was pretty clever.
what do you think of the test? The new test with the teeth.
I thought that was so overly complicated. I thought that these were scientists. Look, in John Carpenter's The Thing, these guys weren't scientists. And they figured out, just apply some hot metal to our blood, you know? And why?
Don't forget, McCready was a helicopter pilot. He wasn't
It
a
was like,
genius.
again, this is the film was like, okay, how can we do what they did in The Thing, but not what they did in The Thing?
And what if you
let's
don't have a filling?
overthink this.
What if you don't have fillings?
Yeah, what if you don't have? What if like you've never had a cavity in your life? That's possible.
Yeah, you know. That's I don't know. As you can see, we were frustrated with this film. There's a lot that we liked about it, but there's a lot we didn't like, and it's a very big letdown.
I wouldn't say there was a lot we liked. I'd say it's a 50-50.
Let's just say this. We loved the idea of there being a sequel
I would say
to
there was
one
a
of our-
whole lot I didn't like.
Let's say, all right, I mean, how about this? We loved the idea of there being a prequel to probably one of our favorite films of all time. We're just very disappointed in the end result.
Yes.
How about if you can't do it right, maybe not do it or wait until you can do it?
I wish they would have just went to John Carpenter. John Carpenter really loves that.
But John Carpenter really,
Look, he gave his blessing to Rob Zombie and the Halloween remake. I mean,
But supposedly,
Money.
supposedly John Carpenter doesn't really want to make movies anymore. Supposedly,
no, he wants to make
he
movies.
likes sitting around getting stoned and playing video games. That's
He can't
what
get
they
money
s-
to make movies anymore. None of his movies make any money. None
Well,
of them make any money.
he told us when
He's the-
we
he's
went
the-
to that talk. He told us, he said that he's been marginalized. He's not sure how he got marginalized, but he is, and it makes things a lot more difficult for him.
There's a very famous quote he has. He goes, "In America, no, in France and England, I'm an amateur. In America, I'm a bum." And I guess
well, he kind of did that to himself, too. I mean, you know, he had, you know, this is a thing about, you know, and he's an idol of mine. But there's a lot of filmmakers, like to a certain extent, Joe Dante falls into that to a greater extent, Dario Argento, you know, where they kind of rest in their laurels. They keep trying to put out the thing they think the fans want to see. How do I top myself? You know, to the point where you begin to marginalize yourself. You're only going to be known for this kind of film. There was a time when John Carpenter kept talking about how he had this movie script in his head about the Vietnam War. That was his dream project, was to do a film about Vietnam, him being a Vietnam War
I think
vet.
he also talked about doing a Western, too.
Yes, he did. He did. In fact, he wrote a Western, which was later made for TV, called El Dorado, but he didn't direct it. He just wrote it.
And the most unusual film in John Carpenter's canon is probably Star Child, or Starman. You know, if you think about it, and it's a nice film. It's you know it's not
It's
a
his most
quintessential John
commercial
Carpenter film, but it is a very nice film.
Since we brought up John Carpenter, would you say The Thing is your favorite John Carpenter film?
It's a toss up between that and Halloween.
Oh, yes.
I also
It's in my top 5 favorite films of all time.
definitely my top 3. My favorite John Carpenter film, and my second favorite would be Prince of Darkness, which I think we've talked about.
Yeah, John Carpenter to me is like the horror equivalent of like a Martin Scorsese, who has excelled in specific kind of dramas, especially crime dramas. Carpenter excels in horror, and already he made 2 masterpieces, The Thing and Halloween, and you can't. How many people can claim to make that many
Well,
masterpieces?
it's just interesting, too, that somebody like the flavor of the year, whatever, Quentin Tarantino, makes no bones about it that he worships the very ground that John Carpenter walks, but yet that doesn't even help Carpenter get financing for any additional films.
We got to wrap this up, guys. I'm sorry, I'm getting the signal. Well, before I wrap
That was
this
no
up,
mini review.
that was hey, we love this. We love talking about this. And the one thing I want to mention too, we got the original soundtrack to The Thing is phenomenal by Ennio Morricone. The remake does not even. It has its theme once, which is used to good effect at the end, but it really needed that. John Carpenter did his music well. He rearranged Morricone's score. He's a phenomenal talent. I hope one day John Carpenter can come back and make another film and make a really good one, but
We're
I
rooting
doubt
for
it.
you, John.
I'm rooting for you. You're my second favorite director, so thank you very much for all your films. All right, well, I'll conclude this.
He's going to love hearing that you're his second favorite director. So if John Carpenter
You know what, I
sees
get
this,
that.
he's going to be euphoric
All right, I'll
that you're
take that. He's my favorite because I've thought about Argento. He's disappointed me too much. John Carpenter, you're promoted. Thank you. Anyway, I'm Edwin Samuelson. Okay, sorry. John Carpenter, congratulations. You're officially my favorite director because Argento has let me down time and time again. You haven't as much. I love just about all your films. So, anyway, that'll conclude this episode or mini review of the CineFiles. I don't think it's a mini. It's kind of a big review, but it's an important one. So, anyway, please post on our Facebook wall, join our discussion group, friend us on Facebook, and be sure to check out Jeff Galishaw's Unfinished Business, which is on this channel as well. I'm Edwin Samuelson, and this was the CineFiles.